So I've been trying out last game Kagami for the last few days. You can see I have him at 86% talent as well because I was just trying very different skill. So I feel like I have a good understanding of the character now. So it's time for me to do a skill priority guide. Now I have to say that I actually don't find his playstyle suit me that much, and I'm going to talk about some of the struggles I had when I was playing with him. I personally think he's actually a very, very good character if you're actually able to master him. Like he is kind of his skills looks very, very simple, but to actually pull them off, it kind of requires quite a bit of micro control, which personally I'm actually struggling with, to be honest. It could just be a skill issue on my side, but I just want to point them out. So if you're still a bit on the fence on whether or not you want to summon for last game Kagami, then just take note on some of the pain point I am personally struggling with, because potentially you could also be struggling with them as well. Okay, so just be mindful of that. But overall, I still think he's a very, very strong character. I have seen some great players using them. I just personally have trouble executing some of his skills due to those micromanagement, etc. But I'll point them out as I go through the skills, okay? And then at the end of the video, I'm going to do a potential guide for him as well. But first of all, in terms of talent priority, I'm going to split it into two stages, okay? First stage is what I think is going to be the absolute essential in order to get kind of for him to be playable, to be honest. And then the second stage are going to be some really advanced skills. Well, personally, I find them to be really, really strong, but require a bit more control and execution when you're using them. So you may not actually be able to pull them off. And I personally struggle a bit when actually trying to use them in real matches. So that's kind of why the second stage of skills that I'm going to talk about is going to be slightly lower priority. Okay, but first of all, starting off with what is going to be minimum viable for you to even start playing him. First one, for the first skill tree, you want to completely unlock all the way to the end. That's because you want to unlock this one. This to me is a very strong skill. So basically, when he actually uses his ultimate offensive ult, he basically has three choices. He can either do this ult drive, he can do an ult dunk, or he can do an ult shoot. And personally, I find this ult drive to be the strongest one, because from this you can then first of all take out some space. So for example, you are actually able to maneuver around the court in whichever direction you want, and then you still have the choice of either going for dunk or don't go for a shoot. So that's kind of why I actually personally think there's the strongest usage of his ult. So you definitely want to unlock all the way to the end for the first skill tree. For the second skill tree, you want to unlock all the way to the end as well, because I found this to be really, really strong as well. This is just a dash and then catch and dunk. But to me, when you do not have your ult ready, this is probably the strongest skill available. And also, it's not so strict on the timing. It's not like Zone Almina's ult and catch and dunk, which require very strict timing. This one, I actually feel like once you dash, you still have like a good 1 or 2 seconds where you need to catch the ball. So even if you're not playing with like a duo or trio all the time, as long as you dash and people realize you have dash, they can still kind of pass to you and for you to still activate that skill. So I do feel like the timing for this is quite relaxed, and it's a quite strong skill, especially when you do not have his ultimate ready. So I do really like this as well. Now for the third skill tree, personally, I would just go to the drive, step back, shoot, and then that be it. Now there are actually 2 other skills which are really strong from this branch, but those are the ones which I find a bit more tricky to actually pull off in matches. That's kind of why it's a lower priority, and I'll talk about why they're tricky in the second stage. And then for the fourth branch, you want to go to the 360-degree lockdown. This to me is very, very strong. The last one for this, personally, I just don't find any use, because in reality, you should be able to actually just block down the enemy. I don't really see any point of increasing your teammates block or increasing your teammates steal when you should either be interfering already or actually make the one making that block in the first place. Okay, but that's kind of what I feel like for the fourth branch. You can just go to 360. And then for the last one, which is his ult, personally, I just think going to this increased block range is going to be fine. I don't actually think you need to unlock any of the actual skills. So if you're on low budget, I think this unlocking block range is already going to be playable for most people. Okay, so that's what I will consider for the first stage in order for him to be playable. So just to recap, unlock skill tree 1, skill 2, second branch, first and second branch completely. For the third one, just unlock the first one, which is the drive, step back shot. For the block, just unlock all the way up to 360. And then for the ult, you can skip it completely. Just go up to the block range, which doesn't even require any character cards. Okay, so that's what I think you need to have in order for him to be minimum playable. Now, if you want to take your character to the next level, there are 3 skills personally I found to be really, really strong. So this will be the next one you want to focus on, but they do require quite a bit of practice, so I would like to warn you guys, and those are also the ones I personally struggle with, okay? So the first priority I will probably give in the next stage is that for the ultimate, you want to go up to this bit for the rebound, okay? Without unlocking this, basically he has no rebound skill at all, and in fact, in his entire kit, this is the only part which gives rebound. Now, the reason why I find personally I find it a bit tricky is because you actually have to press this dash button to then actually use this, and sometimes depending on the location of the rebound, you may not have time to actually press 2 buttons at once. So this I do feel like takes a bit of practice, but it's definitely very strong. And like I said, it's his only rebounding skill. So that's kind of why this is going to be a second priority. It's strong, but it takes practice. Okay. And then the other skill you want to unlock in the second stage is that you want to go all the way and to his skill 3. You want to unlock all the way to that. And there are 2 very important skills that you'll be unlocking here. Number 1 is this catch and step back shot. Now this one is very strong. The only problem for this one, once again, it takes practice. Is because if you actually it kind of depends on the direction pad. If you do not press any direction pad, or at least you do not have the direction pad facing backwards from the basket, what's going to happen is that you will look very stupid. You will do this catch, and then you'll have a very, very tiny window step back. And literally, you're just shooting right in front of the enemy center's face, which is why it's going to be terrible. Now, once you have unlocked the next one, which is the free link, if you actually have your, like it says here, right? If you actually have your direction pad turning backwards, you have now a much bigger step back that you're able to use. And this one can actually create quite a bit of space and hard for people to use. And this is actually very, very strong skill if you're able to pull it off. But this, once again, takes practice. You have to be able to use the direction pad and basically have it backwards. And obviously, if you're coming out from the paint to the outside, it's very easier. For example, if your teammate is already on the outside and you're coming in from the inside, it's going to be easier to execute it. But let's say if it's a different scenario where, let's say, it happened to pass to the center, who's closer to the paint to you, and you do not have enough reaction time to actually then turn your direction pad backwards, then what you're going to end up is this really stupid movement where you shoot right in front of the enemy center. Okay, so that's kind of what I do feel like this is very strong skill, but it takes practice. Okay, you have to be able to take control of your direction pad and basically turn it backwards at the very last second when you use the move. Okay, so that's kind of why, once again, strong but takes practice, and that's why it's a lower priority. And then the last one in this is also very strong. So this ability to me is probably his strongest skill, or the one which is going to make the most difference. Because basically, without this, you cannot actually do a double drive with Kagami, okay? Kagami's skill is really stupid in the sense that if you basically drive once, it goes in one direction. If you press it twice, it doesn't actually do a drive and then drive back. Instead, it just drives one into the opposite direction. Okay, it just drives once into the opposite direction. So if you press it once, for example here, if I press it once, it would just drive to the right. If I press it twice, it would drive to the left. It doesn't actually have that ability where you drive to the right and then come back and drive to the left. And the only way you can do this double drive with LG Kagami is if you actually do this one, which is basically allow you to do a fake shoot and drive, and then from this you can then chain it with a second drive. So that's kind of why I say this is really, really strong. Only problem with this is that you cannot go into a double dribble state when you're using it. So basically what it requires is that when you get the ball, you have to be standing still. If you have already been moving when you get the ball, you're not able to execute it. And once again, this requires practice. Basically what it requires is that either you stand still the whole time, which looks really stupid, or the other more advanced way is right before the enemy, right before the teammate passes you, you have to learn to let go of your direction pad so that you are basically standing still by the time you actually get the ball. Okay, so once again, very, very strong skill. If you're actually able to master this, I think you'll be terrific at LG Kagami. But personally, I just find it difficult because I like moving around with my character, and I find it difficult to suddenly stop right before the ball get passed to me. Okay, so that's basically the main struggles I have with LG Kagami, and that's kind of why I feel like he's a very strong character, but there are certain skill gaps that I personally require. Like I said, it could just be a skill issue on my side, but do be aware of those issues I have just pointed out, because if you're also not able to master it, I feel like you wouldn't be able to get the most out of LG Kagami either. Okay, so just be slightly mindful of those before deciding on whether or not you actually want to summon for him. Now, in terms of potentials, I think there's only one set, or maybe like one variation of the set that I would recommend. For the blue one, you definitely want initial energy for him to get into zone as soon as possible. For the yellow one, you want to go for mid-range and rebound. You can potentially go for mid-range and block, but for the yellow one, at least, I prefer mid-range and rebound because I already think it's very good at blocking. Whereas rebound is the one he kind of need a bit because he literally only have one rebound skill. Now for the green one, I would say you can either go for a rebound vertical or block vertical. The only reason, personally, I actually think rebound is more important than block. But the only reason I'll probably potentially think block vertical can also be useful is because when you actually have it at level 5, the additional ability you're able to get for rebound ones boxing out, which personally I don't feel like is necessary for LG Kagami, purely because he's normally going to be running around rather than standing underneath the basket trying to box out the enemies, etc. So that's kind of why, even though I feel like rebound is more useful, but the secondary stats it's able to give, which is the boxing out, is not actually as good as the one you're able to get for block, which is contest rate. Okay, so that's kind of why I feel like for blue, it's more or less fixed to initial energy. Yellow is going to be fixed to mid-range rebound. Green, you can either go for rebound vertical or block vertical. Okay, and then for in the trace itself, I think this is the only choice. Okay, you will go for natural talent, and you will also go for make some noise. Those are mandatory, just so that you can get to his altar as fast as possible, to get into his zone as fast as possible, and then even after his zone, you still make some noise to make sure you get as many of his offensive and also defensive ult possible. Now, for this one two-way player, personally, I feel like this is going to be the best choice for him because it basically improves both his mid-range and also blocking. If for whatever reason you happen to be the only rebounder on the team, which personally I don't recommend because I feel like Kagami is more like a second rebounder rather than a main rebounder. I feel like you play him more like a forward rather than a center. But if for whatever reason, due to team composition, your teammates didn't actually pick another center, then you can potentially switch this to a rebounding one, such as rebound master instead. Okay, but ideally, I would probably say you want to go for two-way player and play him more like a forward rather than center. Okay, so that's gonna be my thoughts on LG Kagami so far. Let me know if you guys have been trying him out, and also if there's any tip and hints you are able to find with him so far.